Hello, everybody. Welcome again for Utopia Behind the Scenes Vineyard. We are on our fifth show, Cruiser Mel.
5, yeah.
We were only supposed to do 4. We lied, sort of. We didn't mean to, but we had people want to extend the series. So this is our extended series. We actually have 2 segments tonight, but we're making it 1 episode. So you're going to have a lot of wine tasting information tonight.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Anyway, we have a big party coming up, Cruiser Mel. This is December 26th. So just in a few days, what's happening?
Oh, yeah. On the 31st, that's Thursday. Mark your calendars. Starting at 10:30 Eastern times, we are going to have a New Year's Eve party right here, right where you're watching right now. And we're going to have special guests. We're going to have Chasm, Sultan, and Astral Drive, Phil Thornalley, and Fernando Perdomo. I mean, we're just going to be chock-a-block full of talent. But you're also going to be able to see some of your friends, because we're going to have some of you guys actually ringing in the new year in your own time zone. So we're going to march across America. And as you have reminded me, unfortunately, we can't do Alaska and Hawaii, but, we can't have
Continental USA, Continental USA.
Yeah.
That's all right, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a 4+ hour show. It's a who's who of Todd people, fans, and special guests. It's going to be insane. Believe this. You're going to love this one. We got some good stuff already lined up. And let me tell you a little bit about this video that we're about to play. We're going to do it as usual. We're going to have wine photos that might make you think of Todd, Utopia, Naz, whoever, new cars. Mm-hmm. This one is production heavy and bandmate heavy, including Cruiser Mel. All of the members of the 10-piece Clearly Human band, the Todd tour that's coming up in February, March.
Right. Man, awesome.
So there you go. All right, everybody, happy holidays. We'll see you in a few days for New Year's Eve. You don't want to miss that. If you're working or something else, it'll be archived like all our shows. So we hope you enjoy this wine series. We have one more. We're going to do episode 6. Will be sometime in 2021. We hope you enjoy episode 5. Are you ready, Cruiser Mel?
Ready.
A factory somewhere keeps on cranking them out. Seems like they travel in pairs, not with the trouble but too full of clout. Somebody must play his game. They get stuck in the here and now, lending and borrowing pain. It's Mr. Your face, you kiss the ground. But you don't do nothing
Hello and welcome back. This is our 5th wine tasting with Utopia Vineyard. We were supposed to do 4, but we've extended the series because we were having so much fun with Dan and learning so much. Everybody said, hey, keep doing it. So, all right. So tonight we're going to do some rosé, which is not just rosé, but I'll let him explain all that. It's a different kind of rosé, right? And we have a special surprise guest as always.
Who's it going to be?
I don't know. Without further ado, let's check it out and see. Ta-da!
Hi.
Hey!
Hello.
Global Girls is in the house, getting ready for the tour next year. All right. Yeah. I got Global Girl on. Cool. That's great. That's awesome. All right. So, Dan, what are we drinking today?
Hey, hi everybody. Great to be with you all here. We are going to do a little bit of Pinot Noir Rosé this afternoon. I've got my 2019 Pinot Noir Rosé here. One of the first things you're going to notice about this rosé is it's a little bit darker color than most of the rosés you're going to meet. And that's because of the way that I vinify this wine. So a lot of that, we'll do a little bit of background on rosés in general to give you some context, and then we can talk specifically about this wine and taste it. But most of the rosés that you see, they're that pastel color, very light pink or salmon color. That is called a Saignée rosé. And Saignée, like most wine terms, is a French term, and it means to bleed or blood in French. And so a Saignée rosé is actually a bleed off of a tank. So when we harvest the fruit, I'm sure you guys all know this, we have to sort it, and then it's going to go into some type of vessel, typically an open top stainless steel fermenter if you're in the Willamette Valley and you're making Pinot Noir of any kind. And sometimes maybe if the fruit isn't fully ripe, or the winemaker wants to do something to concentrate the flavors in the finished wine, he's going to bleed out some of the liquid portion of the wine, except it's not wine, it's called must at that point because it hasn't fermented yet. So bleed out some of the liquid portion of the must in order to concentrate the lot. When you remove some of the liquid, you're increasing the skin to juice ratio in the tank, and that will concentrate the lot and give you more concentrated flavors in the finished wine. So it's always done in the first 24 hours, or I would say almost always done in the first 24 hours. Sometimes as little as 4 hours of skin contact. And so that's why you have that really pastel type of color, because it hasn't had much skin contact, so it hasn't extracted much of the phenolic compounds that are in the must. And you can either flush that byproduct down the drain, or you can make a Saignée rosé. So most people choose to bottle it as a Saignée rosé, and that's when you see those pastel colored bottles of rosé, that's how it's made. This is called Bandol style, and it comes from the Bandol region, which is in central Provence in the southeast corner of France. And by law, they make their rosé and their red wine with a minimum of 50% of the Mourvedre grape, or the French just say Mourvèdre, or it's also known as Mataro. It's all the same grape. And it's a Rhone variety. And it's a full-bodied red wine, so it's a more darker skin, thicker skins, and it makes a more full-bodied style of rosé, a more hefty style. And so I took the concept of what they do there, and I did it with Pinot Noir here. So instead of doing a bleed off of a tank, I made a Bandol style rosé, but I used Pinot Noir, which is what I grow, my red grape here, versus Mourvedre, which is what they would use over there. And by doing it in Bandol style, it means that I grow the grapes specifically to make that wine. It is not a bleed off of a tank. It's not a byproduct of anything. I'm using the entire lot, so therefore I can extend the amount of skin contact or maceration, and usually anywhere, instead of 24 hours or less, it's like 5 or 6 days up to 10 or 11 days, depending on the vintage of skin contact. and then I drain it off into neutral French oak barrels and age it in neutral French oak barrels to add more texture. So the idea is to get more color, more flavor, more texture, so that it's basically a more flavorful wine that's better in the summertime when you're grilling to pair with whatever it is you're grilling. My concept for it is to push it to the margin where rosé ends and Pinot Noir begins, in order to get as much flavor and texture as I can, but not completely lose the rosé character. So that's what I'm going for.
Gotcha. Yeah, so there's some rosés that are, especially a lot of French rosés that are very light color, but I have seen some others from different places that are dark. Is that a sign of anything else? I mean, can you go, okay, if I get this one, it may be sweeter or drier or anything like that?
It's hard to know just from that alone, but you might be able to get information from the back label of the wine.
Mm-hmm.
Might tell you a little bit more about the wine, or nowadays, because we all have smartphones, and there's apps like the Vino and Delectable and Cellar Tracker, you can actually take a photograph of the label and then have information on the wine sent back to you, which is a really, really handy, nifty thing for us consumers these days.
Did the other vineyards in Oregon use the Pinot grape for their rosés?
Yes. In this part of Oregon, the Willamette Valley, yes.
Okay. Very nice. Well, it's a beautiful color without a doubt, and I bet it tastes pretty good too.
Let's see how it tastes.
Let's do it.
Yay, we get to try.
As if we didn't know.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I get a lot of like fresh berry, like strawberry
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
cherry,
Yeah.
mainly strawberry for me. It really,
No doubt.
really kind of refreshing, delightful, a really nice mouthfeel. It's really juicy. It's that juicy berry flavor, and it finishes really clean too. So, I mean, I still taste the berries after I swallow it.
Yep.
So for me, that's a pretty rockin' rosé right there.
It's good. Well, so one of our guests here, Kim, up there in slot number 2, likes her rosés dry. So
I like this.
versus sweet. Where would you put yours on the meter between dry and sweet?
Okay, so let's talk about what constitutes a dry wine first. Okay, so in winemaking, the definition for a dry wine means that the wine contains 1% or less of residual sugar in the finished wine. Okay, 1% equals 10 grams per liter. Okay, so there's a range there. If you have a sensitivity to sweetness, then a dry wine could technically still taste sweet to you. This wine has a little bit, it's a dry wine, but it has a little bit of residual sugar, about 2.5 grams per liter. Okay, and that was intentional. Just leave that little bit of touch of sweetness to add some extra body to the wine. And I mean, it's a dry wine. It's just not as dry as it could be. It could be drier. But with the rosé, I kind of like that little bit of sweetness. And it really enhances those berry, the strawberry and cherry flavors for me. And I'm not that sensitive to it, so it doesn't bother me at all. How about everybody else? I mean, how are you guys perceiving the wine? Does it taste sweet to you, or does it taste dry?
No.
Because it is a dry wine.
Dry. I like it.
A dry berry.
Yeah.
Definitely like a dry strawberry. I get it. A dry
Yeah.
strawberry.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
yummy.
It's very crisp and dry, but there's that fruit forwardness to it. That's
Yes.
and I
I
absolutely
like it a
taste
lot.
the strawberries. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
And I do
Yeah.
get that tiny.
Yeah, I do love that. I do love that about this, that really freshness to it. And
this is about as good as a rosé gets.
Wow.
thank you.
Ooh, big praise.
What, Tim? What were you going to say?
I've been making this wine since 2009, and I borrowed that concept from Bandol. Nobody was really doing that here, and I think it's the most unique rosé in the United States. Of course, I would think that because I made it, but it's really different. Like I said, from most of the rosés you're going to meet that tend to lack texture and flavor. I mean, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with a Saunier rosé. I mean, it's fine. But I just like a little more texture and flavor, even in a rosé, and I think this really does that.
I've had other rosés from right around you, and they're definitely not the same color.
No,
they're much lighter. Yeah. So Tim was going to say something. I was having trouble hearing you. Tim, what did you want to say?
I really agree that you're bumping up against the boundary with its parent grape. The Pinot Noir. So how do you know when you get there? Is it all just by barrel tasting?
Oh, well, at that point, the wine is in tank, but yes. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a great question because that's the art part, right? So I've got it in an open top fermenter, and I'm being very careful not to do any aggressive cap manipulation with it. So I'm just pumping it over to homogenize the contents of the tank, the SO2 and the temperatures, and it's during cold soak. So the must is very cold. That's what prevents it from fermenting, is keeping it at a very cold temperature. And so it's around 35 degrees, and it's going to try to start to ferment even at those cool temperatures. So we're trying to hold it off and not get too much extraction. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm just pumping it over maybe 2 or 3 times a day for around 3 minutes, just to homogenize the liquid in there and homogenize the temperatures and the SO2, the little bit of SO2 that we add when we sort the fruit to protect it from bacteria. So you want to get all that homogenized, and then over the next 4 or 5 or 6 days or whatever it is. In 2011 it was actually 11 days, but that was the coolest vintage we ever had, and so the fruit was less ripe, and so it took a little bit longer to get it where I wanted. So I'm just watching it very closely, and I'm looking at the color, and I'm tasting it. And at that point, it's really just for the volume and the mouthfeel, the texture of the wine, how it feels in my mouth, and the color. And then once I see it get to that sweet spot, then we're going to drain and press, and let it go and ferment in barrel. And I use nothing but neutral French oak barrels to age this wine, because with all the extraction that I've got, the richness of the fruit, and given that it's a rosé, I mean, I've had Pinots that are lighter than this, honestly. But with this wine, I want to add a neutral French. It's not going to add any of those barrel flavors, which would overpower this wine, but it will add texture because the wood is porous, and it will give it a little more grip on the palate. So you get the texture with the flavor, and then you get better balance that way.
All right, so let's see if our special guest, Grace, has any questions. We'll put her at the front of the line.
I'm drinking.
Yeah, while you drink, Dan.
I feel like I'm in a college course on wine right now.
Uh-oh. I apologize.
No, it's good because I have no, very, very little knowledge of. So I'm like, what's SO2 and what's musk or mustard?
I know. I was wondering.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
No. I love it. I'm just absorbing everything like a sponge. And now I've gone on one in-person wine tasting for a bachelorette party, but I feel like it's not even close to the experience I would have if I were on your vineyard. I feel like I would be much more invested in knowing and learning about the whole process. But yeah, that one they were just kind of like, okay, now try this, and then we were like, okay. So I just so admire just your knowledge and experience in winemaking, and I feel the deep appreciation and craftsmanship. So it's really
are you enjoying the wine?
Yes, I am, and I am also enjoying that I'm like speaking with the creator, so it really feels really special, you know,
Thank
and
you.
makes it a very personal experience. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. So just so you know, Grace, must is what we call wine before it's wine. Prior to fermentation, it's the juice part. It's called must because it has more than liquid. It has seeds and skins and all that other stuff in there, and stems sometimes. So we refer to that as the must. Then once it's fermented, obviously, then it's wine. But prior to fermentation, it's called must. That's all. And then SO2, sorry, that's the chemical symbol for sulfites. And we use sulfites to basically to bleach the wine and kill bacteria. Because wine there's a number of microbial and non-Saccharomyces yeast bacteria that can infect the wine. And so we use teeny tiny amounts, parts per million, of a little bit of SO2 to keep those at acceptable levels. We don't want to make you sick.
Thank you. No, wine is like medicine, as they say, right?
It is, definitely.
It's
Totally.
very important for this
That's
year.
medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, John, Bob, and Deborah, y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I do actually. Good to see you again, Dan. I feel like you're my next door neighbor anymore. I've been on so many.
Likewise. Happy holidays, everybody. By the way.
Yeah, happy holidays for sure. You know,
it's I don't. What time is it out there? I mean, I'm in Portland, near Portland. I'm in Willamette Valley, so it's around. I mean, we start a little after 4, so it's probably around 4:30 or something like that, I guess. But it's happy hour now.
We have Mountain Time, Central Time.
It's 6:30 here.
And
and
Eastern Time. All time zones. Yeah.
It's wine o'clock, as we say.
Yes.
Wine o'clock.
Well, you know, rosé definitely is one of our go-tos in the summer. I mean, there's nothing better than a nice cold rosé. And you know, it's really funny, for as many wines I think as we drink and deal with, I've really never thought about A, the process, or B, what grapes make up a rosé. So you're doing Pinot Noir. You said in Provence they're using more like a Mourvedre grape.
Yeah.
What other red grapes are used? Are all grapes used to make a rosé?
Any red wine grape you can make rosé from. But really popular when I was in California was Grenache Blanc, which is a white wine, or we call them orange wines now, made from a red wine grape, or Grenache Rosé. It's a very popular variety to make rosé from. Another really popular one is Cabernet Franc. Makes a really nice rosé as well. But in reality, any red wine grape can be used to make a rosé wine.
Yeah, I've had Syrah, Tempranillo. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. I made a Tempranillo port in 2018. It's still in barrel right now. Yes. And really excited about that.
Yeah. Hey, when did you say the sparkling wine was going to be ready?
So
it'd be nice to have that for New Year's Eve.
Doug, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm not going to make any sparkling wine out of that lot. I'm going to make a still wine out of it. It just didn't have enough zip, but it's going to make a lovely still wine.
Okay, we'll drink it too.
And when
Doug, you took my question.
a year from now.
I'm sorry, Don.
So yeah, I mean, next year I'll probably make a sparkling rosé. This was a Pinot Gris that we were talking about. It's just not a good variety for that, and I didn't want it to be my first sparkling wine after I tasted it. But I really do like the wine. It's just it's definitely a still wine.
I'm going to guess, Deborah, you have another question beside that one. Maybe?
I really don't. I mean, everything. No, it's like I'm listening to everyone, and between Grace and Bob so far.
So what do you think of this?
Oh, it's delicious. I mean, the color especially is just drawing me in.
Yeah.
I know.
This is very nice.
And I love strawberries. So for me, this is like a go-to.
Yeah.
And the palate, it's just there. It's just great. Robust.
Yeah, I mean, this would be like really good with like grilled chicken, maybe garlic chicken or even burgers, it'd be good with that. But I think like a nice like grilled chicken, garlic chicken or something like that, this in the summer when you're grilling.
Sure.
And this, one of the nice things about rosé is, in general, we drink our white wines too cold and our red wines too warm. But with the rosé, you don't have to worry about that. You can chill the shit out of it, and it actually enhances it. In the summertime, it makes it so
Yeah.
refreshing and good. You know,
Yeah, it's really amazing.
and it's one of those wines that you can have it. You know, you can have with crackers and cheese or whatever. Or you can just drink it. I mean, when we have our bocce league in the summer, we go through cases of this stuff every week. You know, because everybody's drinking it, and it's really really fun.
Dan, I was looking up,
love
doing a
that.
little research before tonight and trying to look up, food pairings with this rosé, and that sort of led me down a rabbit hole. Various kinds of
Sure.
cheeses that were good, but then also, like you said, the grilled chicken and stuff like that. And one word kept popping up, and I don't know if it was a bad writer, but they mentioned the word minerality, and I don't know if they were talking about in the food or in the wine. Is that a wine term?
Yeah, so that's an awesome thing to bring up because that's one of those kind of esoteric terms that gets used in description for wine. But here's and it actually has multiple meanings. So depending on the context of which wine is being reviewed or whatever, in general, what it refers to is the acidity in the wine. Okay, so that's what makes white wine crisp is the acidity. And some people refer to that as minerality. However, other people refer to minerality as an earthiness sometimes. Like they get really, really out there with their descriptions, which I don't particularly find useful. But in general, minerality is talking about the crispness, and it's usually used in describing white wines. And that crispness comes from the acidity in the wine. Acid is a key structural element of wine. Acids and tannins are the two key structural elements of wine. Tannins, especially in red wines, acid, especially in white wines. But those are very, very important. And the way, the level of acidity affects how the wine tastes.
Thank you. I get it now.
That's usually what they're talking about.
Okay, so we haven't heard from Kim with a question. You have anything, Kim?
No, I'm just enjoying my little buzz.
Enjoying it. I'm glad you like it because I know you're a rosé fan. What about you, Linda? Linda Fisher?
This is my favorite one so far.
Oh, really? Did
This
you do
is
the
my
Bliss?
favorite. Yep.
Oh, wow. Dan, you said you sell more than that in the Bliss, right?
I love them all.
I like this. I just love this. The rosé is my favorite so far.
Well, Linda's had several with us. So that's a good
But it's
time. All right, good stuff. You'll just have to order some more then. All right. So that's and you did tell me that you sell more of this than the Bliss, right?
It's about the same. I mean, I don't make a lot of the Pinot Noir Blanc or the Pinot Noir Rosé. I mean, you're talking about 150 cases of each year. So they're going to sell out every year.
Ooh,
Gotcha. All right, good deal.
better order now.
That's right. All right. Does anybody else got any questions? Can we send Dan back to work?
No.
Make us some more good wine?
Listen, Dan, I just know you have to know. Last week, the last one, I was saying we're giving you a test because the things that you were telling us was like my head was exploding. I can listen to you for hours. We need to come there. We need to come there.
Well, we got to.
You have an open invitation, all of you, anytime. I'd love to host you, and
We will. We'll be there.
it's really chill when you come. I mean, we're just hanging out and having a few laughs, drinking some wine, and talking wine and viticulture if you want, but we don't have to. We can just play bocce ball and drink.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you understood anything Linda said, but she said she was a big fan and has been enjoying the shows.
Yeah,
Likes the wine every show.
That's
In
awesome.
summary.
Is it,
All right.
Dan,
Well, good
Dan,
deal.
what the background that I have behind me said that it was from Utopia Winery. Does it look familiar to you? Is that maybe your guest house or something? Make it larger, Doug.
Yeah, I can't
That's the
see it.
cabin. That's the cabin.
That's the cabin?
That's our log cabin. That's our Airbnb cabin.
Oh, it's
Ooh,
gorgeous.
ooh,
That's what I
Ooh.
thought.
Oh yeah,
Look,
that's it.
look,
Yeah.
look,
Oh,
look.
cool.
Yeah, that's up where the one.
Wow.
So I have two properties. I have the tasting room and the vineyard on one property, and that's where my home is. I live right in the vineyard. And then we have another 36.5 acres up the road where my new winery is that we built in 2019. And there was a log cabin on the property that we refurnished and turned into an Airbnb cabin. And the whole thing is just awesome. I mean, and last winter we cleared 15 acres of trees, and we just finished burning our slash piles up there and raking it. And we're gonna plant some cover crop, and we're getting ready to plant vines in the fall. So we're gonna plant some bunch of
Nice.
new stuff to keep me going, keep me happy.
My friend Heffernan spent their anniversary there this year in your cabin.
Oh,
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Tina
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
oh.
Tina did really? Okay, that's great.
It's, I mean, when you come out, you'll see, I mean, Ribbon Ridge is the tiniest American viticultural area in Oregon, and it's a lot of, family owned vineyards and wineries. And you come here and you meet the owners and the winemakers and the vineyard managers, and everybody's, it's just like visiting your family or something. I mean, it's just a neighborhood, it's chill, and it's really, whatever you want it to be, but it's a great, I think, wine country experience. It's not just a beverage here. It's the whole thing.
I cover Oregon as part of my job, and most of October and November of last year we were there and we did the whole tour, and somehow we missed you. That won't happen the next time we're
It's
traveling.
easy to do. We only sell our wine here, and our business is pretty much word of mouth.
Oh, but you have a wine club, I know that.
I do. I have the Utopian Tasting Society.
Do you like keeping
Wine
it
club's
small?
boring.
Do you like keeping it small, or do you want to conquer the world with Utopia?
No. I mean, I want to keep it to the point where I can continue to do everything. So, I'm the guy that drives the tractor and manages the vineyard, and makes all the wines. I do almost all my own cellar work. I mean, I'm pretty much doing it all. And my oldest daughter does the marketing, and one of my son-in-laws does the tasting room, and my wife does the office. And that's our life.
Nice.
Live here. The family is all in the house.
Yeah, totally.
John Bob.
Yes, sir. So,
That's the dog.
it's funny, you mentioned that because, even companies, now not the big, gigantic corporate groups, but some of the wineries that sell nationwide, it's amazing, other than harvest time, how few people it really takes to run a vineyard and a winery.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like you said, you pretty much do it yourself. Even some of the places out in Napa, you go in, it's a handful of people other than a tasting room that run the actual day-to-day of the winery.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's once the farming starts in earnest, then, we're pretty much slaves to the sun. And then, we're working long days, and then harvest comes, and then we add to that. And then that lasts a couple months. And now I got my last Pinot Noir lot in barrel the day before Thanksgiving this year, which is fairly typical. Sometimes it takes a little longer. And now once everything's in barrel, then, it's cellar work. And at that point, you're talking about, monitoring the chemistry of the wine and topping the barrels and things like that. Not, it's fairly low maintenance. And then, of course, we're still selling the wine, and in normal years, we're still doing events, and we're still doing all of our marketing stuff and all of that to our mailing lists and everything. So and then there's still stuff to do in the vineyard. I mean, today I was out. We've had a lot of storms, and we've had some high winds quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. And every time that happens, there's a lot of trees, so we get a lot of branches blown around, and have to go collect the brush and take it over to the burn pile and clean up the property. And we get things broken, so we have to repair them in the vineyard. And I'm out flagging replants and winterizing the equipment, and there's always stuff to do. And then I've got 4 winery clients that share my winery with me now, and so I got to take care of any of their needs. And then I'm making some wine for another client. So I've got and plus all my own wines. I'm making 7 different wines at least this year of my own. So it's plenty to keep me busy.
Full-time job.
Yeah.
Full-time job. All right. Well, Dan, we appreciate it. Thanks for the education on Pinot Noir Rosé. We'll
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again for the next one for Eden.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Sure.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Dan.
Merry Christmas.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. It's fun stuff, isn't it?
That was awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, that was great.
I love Dan.
That was great.
I love Dan.
Right. He could teach a college
Hey,
course
yeah,
on
so
it.
good.
That's right. So
Fun,
That was
you hadn't been to a lot of wine
exactly. I
tasting.
thought I should be taking notes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was doing. Because I just so felt his love for what he does, and it's so awesome to it's inspiring.
Yeah. He talked a lot about that in the first show that we did. And he's been good. So for all of them, it's been really, really nice. And it's fun when you go to Oregon. Since you haven't been, you've only been to the bachelorette party. It's a totally different experience to go to an actual vineyard and meet the people and tasting it. It's fun.
well, he's the kind I would want to
That's a fact.
actually be taught by, rather than some snooty, stuffy guy.
Exactly. Some of them are like that. I had
Yeah.
one time a really experience like that in California, which I won't get into. Maybe another time. It's kind of a funny.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Since I stole Deborah's question about sparkling wine, I'm going to give her first dib for Grace. Deborah.
Okay. What do you mean? Oh, okay. I want to know a little bit about what's going on. What's coming up in the next year? Just tell me whatever
Me
you
too.
want.
I'm like, what's happening? Is 2021 happening, or is it going to get canceled again?
No,
Right.
I mean, I know. I know that sounds really lame, but I know as much as y'all know. Like whatever was on Deadline articles and Variety. I was like, oh, cool. These are the people who are part of the tour. And Michelle reached out, and I was just so thrilled, because the last one, Shovel Rock Tour, was like 3 years ago, basically. Wow. I think our last, we were touring this month too. I think.
Oh no.
Oh no!
She'll come back. You came back. You froze for a second.
Oh, did I freeze? Oh no.
Yeah,
Okay.
it happens.
I was like, what happened? What's wrong with the wheel turn? Okay. And LA is where I was born and raised, so that was my hometown, and I just remember that was such a full circle moment to end the year and the tour. On New Year's Eve with the whole family. And I just remember like, oh, this really might be the last one, which is what I said at the end of the global tour in 2015. And so, every 2 years or every 3 years when, you get the call, it's just so exciting because at this point they really all feel like family. And, we just have so many fun memories together, but this one is going to be quite different because it's a virtual tour. I mean, maybe we'll feel even more like family because we have the quarantine together.
Together, yeah.
Yeah. All I know is we're going to be in a bubble during, the whole time, or probably before, to just quarantine before maybe even rehearsals begin. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I know. I mean,
you have to take care of Todd and Michelle and Prairie and Chasm now is 65. So we got to take care of the old folk.
They're
the young folk.
I feel like they're the lost boys at heart, like just
take care of them for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, just basically taking care of each other will really be taking care of our health, right? Taking care of our own health and making sure we're doing all the, right things and safe things, and being responsible and things like that. And so it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I've certainly never done a virtual tour. So
neither have most of the people in the band. Have you had a chance? Have you ever seen the Nearly Human Tour video from Japan?
I have. I think, was that 1991?
Yes.
My favorite.
That was the year I was born.
Oh my God. That is great.
Fun fact.
I'm going to guess Michelle.
That was my favorite tour.
You're probably not going to do the gold outfits. I bet Michelle's going to do something more current.
You got to do the gold outfits.
Well, we just did a virtual fitting the other day, and I'm pretty sure she mentioned gold, but I could be wrong.
Here we go. Be like 91.
Also, I mean, the answers to y'all's questions might change if we go off the record.
Yeah, here we go. We'll do that later.
We're still recording, so I'm not sure. I haven't gone over with Michelle what we are allowed to disclose, but
that's usually nothing. If it's
right,
it's usually nothing.
So maybe I shouldn't have even said that. But she just loves surprising, and she just loves, she's so fun. So, and she obviously wants to have that experience for the whole Todd Rundgren family. So I think that's why she errs on the side of mysterious, maybe.
Yes, well, Todd changes his mind sometimes too. Probably has
it's a secret society. So any questions that I can't answer, I will drink.
Okay, so tell us about your recent commercial. That's a pretty big deal, I guess. Or is that common? Is that for you every week? I don't know.
No. I mean, honestly, it's the most number of commercials I've shot this year, actually, in a pandemic, which is insane. Because the whole industry was shut down. I was just starting a play rehearsal when the next day we got a call, and I thought I was being replaced, but actually it was a stage manager calling to say the whole production has been canceled. And so that kind of began like the snowball effect from there. But yeah, it was a Facebook portal commercial. I actually shot it in October, so we had to get COVID tested before our fitting. We had to get COVID tested before we arrived to set. That's just just the union laws and how they're trying to the protocols they are trying to set up so that it's possible for us to even start working again. I mean, my heart goes out to the Broadway community. I was just in New York. I was in New York last year doing a workshop, and it just breaks my heart on a new musical, and it just breaks my heart that Broadway is shut down till the summer.
It's gonna come
next
back.
year. It's gonna come back, but it's like save the arts. But yeah, I've just been grateful. I've been grateful to find work even during this time. Thank you, everybody, for paying unemployment taxes, because that has also been helping me out a lot.
There you go. So how do you bag a commercial like that? You have an agent, and then they just pick you out of. I mean, there's got to be hundreds of thousands of people they're trying to get in on television, been on commercials, but they picked you.
Yeah, it's. I do have a commercial agent, and I have an agent for theatrical, which is a TV film opportunities, and then I have my stage agent, which is for plays and musicals, things like that. And so my commercial agents, they submit you, and I think casting offices across the board get a minimum of maybe 3,000 to 4,000 submissions at least a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the number of auditions they even give out from all those submissions, I think it's gotta be sometimes. It could be sometimes like less than 50 for sure. So it's been interesting with this pandemic. Everything of course was moved virtually. I did have a one in-person callback. And that was very interesting because there was a whole plexiglass in front of the casting director.
Yeah.
but they're just trying to make it work because there really is something about being in the room with the person and really getting to feel their energy and connect with them that I just think the screen doesn't communicate. So it will be interesting to see what you guys think of the tour, experiencing that through the screen, because there's something about being there and doing the collapse with Todd. You know what I mean?
There will be 19
Yes.
people.
Huh?
There'll be 19. There will be 19 people at each show live. That's going to be it. They're allowing 19
Yeah, you
people.
will.
to go see it.
Well, see, I learned something new today. I
There
did
you
not
go.
know that.
A whole 19, and they got to be socially distanced. Even if they're married, they got to still be socially distanced. So it'll be 19 spread out in this little
What?
wherever you are. We don't know where
Oh,
you're
you
doing
mean
this.
in person?
In person, 19
Yeah.
people. They sell 19 tickets per show. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. We
Yeah,
haven't
I'm
asked
here.
you about your about wine. Are you a wine drinker normally, or is this like something you're just checking out?
After the show, everybody would be like having something, like a beer or a wine. And so I started out with ciders, and then Ashley actually told me about wine spritzers. So that's how I think I drank wine before here and there, but like sips, so I don't think I really appreciated it until maybe even like a couple of years ago, where when you're eating a nice meal, it's like, I really crave some wine with this steak. So, I mean, I'm not really a big drinker, but that's kind of like my lame, sad history with wine. I wish I, I can't even swivel correctly because I'm scared I'm going to spill.
Just showing off. Nobody knows how to do it right, probably.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to do it because it releases like some oils, or you're supposed to like see how it clings to the glass or something.
Yeah.
Oh, you let it aerate.
Check the legs on it.
Look at the color.
So I'm like, what legs? What are you talking
Mainly
about?
open it up. Yeah, that won't have any. Yeah.
I'm like, what
red.
legs?
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I
can
just
look at
learned
live
today.
through wine-colored glasses.
There are no.
Rosé colored glasses.
If you go to Oregon or somewhere and go wine tasting and to the places like Dan's, it'll totally change your perspective of it. And you'll think a lot more about different things when you're at dinner, what kind to have. You learn weird stuff here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always associated Oregon or like Portland with coffee because I am a huge, coffee connoisseur. I mean, I don't know.
We'll do a coffee series and invite you back. We'll get a coffee expert.
I'm certified, actually. I'm a certified barista.
Oh,
whatever that means.
You could be our expert then.
Oh, maybe not.
I'd love to know how they make flavored
You're
coffee.
gonna get yourself controlled here.
Yeah.
Did Linda have a question? I saw her hand go up.
I did. So now I forgot it. Go on. Keep going.
Drink more wine, Linda.
I think that was her question from 30 minutes ago. She's now coming in. Yeah.
I actually have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's related
Excellent.
to coffee, and it's really just simple. I know we're not talking coffee here,
No,
but I
no,
just
we
have to
are.
ask you because Grace,
What do you want?
I'm looking for an organic, low acid coffee. What would you suggest?
Well, yeah, a lot of them kind of, it depends on what blend and roast it is, right? Because I think there's ones that are, it is kind of like wine where some are, they say the flavor, the undertones are more fruity, or the other ones are closer to like chocolate and more earthy. Let's see. I think Ethiopia coffee beans are usually pretty good. I currently am getting mine from Stumptown. I believe they're in San Francisco, or maybe they're in Oregon. That would be bad if I messed that up. But
That's okay. Just good to know that there's one out there that's low acid. Though.
Down in Portland.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Stumptown. Yes. They're the best. I'm getting the Hairbender, and I drink it every morning. I use an AeroPress. It's kind of like a French press, but more intense. It kind of looks like a little mini rocket ship thing. But yeah, in terms of organic beans, like I think there are beans from a place called Earth Cafe in LA.
I've heard of that.
yeah, that might also source that. But yeah, I think the beans that tend to be a little more on the acidic side, I feel like, is like Guatemala beans or but yeah, Ethiopia is usually a good any coffee shop, specialty coffee shops that roast. You could also ask them, and they would be able to tell you more than I can probably. I
We're
mean,
gonna have
thank
a
you
coffee
for
maker
that
on here.
information.
That's what we'll do. We'll have a coffee maker come in and tell us
Okay.
all this kind of stuff and try
I
coffee.
would
Why not?
love that.
You have to do
You
coffee,
can
you
do
have
whatever
to
you
do
want, bro.
beer. You have to do
We can do
beer.
beer, craft beer. We can do craft beer. We can do whatever we
You
want.
gotta
Yeah.
do craft beer.
That's the
I'll
nice
take
thing about
off
this.
get people to come in and do and help you.
As long as we
Get
can find
Sam in
somebody.
here.
Yeah. All right. Well, Grace, we appreciate our generous time, but I know John Bob has to say something about Global because it was his favorite tour and he's seen Todd since the 70s.
Well, you know,
So you get the floor, my man.
why was it your
since-
favorite?
dude? Since the '60s, actually.
60s. I'm sorry. That's right. You saw Nas.
Well, I think. Yeah, I saw Nas. So Global and White Knight were absolutely fabulous. I think it was just such a really big change in Todd's music that it was interesting to see it, and I really enjoyed it. I think more is from a crowd fan standpoint as far as the camaraderie. But the question is, do you have anything else to add to your Bachelorette story, or is
No. I mean, it was in
Okay,
Santa
we'll leave it
Barbara. Yeah, it was in Santa Barbara,
Oh.
and I mean, we really didn't know, but we were definitely the people who were just, taking pictures, and so it wasn't crazy or anything like that. We're just good girls enjoying our wine.
Yeah. So she says on air, there was nothing to it. So maybe I need to stop the broadcast.
I always find it
Right.
so fascinating. Going back to like Global, especially, I always find it so fascinating to see how people who've been longtime fans of Todd would react to his newer music, right? That has a more of a modern or contemporary like twist to it. I feel like there's like different categories of Todd fans too, just from my 2 tours, like experiencing, like there are the fans that are like, play Hello It's Me, play Hello It's Me, and he'll do it, like, but he usually saves it at the very end or makes it an encore because he's like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And there are the fans who just really appreciate, it's not the song, but it's really the artist behind the song, and you just kind of the fans that evolve with his music because they just so appreciate Todd, and want to follow his journey of discovering and experimenting always with new sounds. So it's interesting, like when see. Yeah, it's interesting when we meet different kinds of fans. I mean, we welcome all of them. So
yeah, there are some that do not like the Global White Knight, no doubt, from the old days.
And there's some that don't like Todd who show up to his
some
shows.
that don't like his old stuff or his prog stuff. Yeah, he's done so many, but anyway.
That is true what she said.
Yes. So
there's some that don't even like Todd, but they come anyway, and then they complain.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You're good. You were frozen for a second.
Yeah, I think the White Knight, we had the tinfoil hat song, and there would be people who
wow, that was
yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that whole time, but there would be people who boo. There would be people who just. I think at one point we received death threats before a show.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy times.
Grace, Mel and I did a Global show, the one in South Bend, Indiana, and I think Mel, maybe it was 2 weeks, maybe a month, 2 weeks. I think it was a 2-week window or so when Todd made the comments about it, and we had people wanting refunds. It wasn't a lot, but we had some people just raising hell about refunds and stuff. We're like, nope. But yeah, it created a lot of drama around the ticketing for those concerts that people had already bought tickets. But
yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I
he's
think
getting the last laugh.
Yeah, I mean, truly, like this is, also one of his songs that love is the answer. And, You want people, I think, the unhealthy side of the appreciation for music. I think a lot of times people feel an entitlement, a sense of entitlement or ownership, even over Todd, dare I say. So
I get it.
I could see why he could seem, I mean, he's always there doing his best to sign and autograph things as much as he can when he can. But I think after years and years, I could just see as an observer how over time it could be kind of difficult when people just feel like they know you so well, like strangers feel like they know you so well because you share this, you basically bare your soul, like album after album. So these people feel like they are entitled to be your friend, and they know you, I know you, and but I could see how yeah, I mean, for me, I think even back in Global Tour, like I don't even know if I would have agreed to do something like this because I was so shy about like connecting with the fans. I just kind of felt like I'm just here to do the job and then kind of run back to the bus. And Ashley was more the person just like really engaging with everybody. And I didn't even have Facebook, so like I didn't really, I was probably like the enigma person, but yeah, I mean, it should be really nice hearing. I didn't know 19 people were going to be in the show, so.
Yeah, 19 people. As long as it, that they don't change the city or whatever, there's no laws that change it. That's the plan.
Yeah.
They have to get COVID tested 3 days before the show and show up and get a result. Yeah, so people are buying the tickets.
Yeah, the number 19 is interesting. I'm like,
it's really
why
random,
is it 20? Yeah.
Maybe you're going to do the song.
maybe
19.
because of COVID-19.
There you go. Could be 2019.
Oh,
that's good. That's a good guess.
No.
That's a good guess.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, Grace, we didn't see you as shy, and we thought you did a wonderful job at White Knight Global and all that. We look forward to seeing you.
I love you. Thank you very much. It's I'm very excited. I did see the tour in Japan, the video on YouTube, of course, and the music it just seems like Want of a Nail. Whew, I was like, this is my 2020 anthem. That's a good song. But anyway, y'all know that, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, everybody get ready to get your global shirts back out. It's going to be time. They're coming back. They are back, baby. All right. Well, good deal. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. I'm glad y'all enjoyed the wine so much. Grace, you've been a great guest.
Salud. Thank you.
And we look so forward to seeing you either live or virtual
Yes.
in 2020.
Here's to hope.
Yep.
Happy Merry Christmas,
Here's to better
Happy New Year.
2021.
Yes. Happy holidays.
I'll drink to that.
Hallelujah.
Hello, everybody. Once again, we are here for some delicious wine tasting from Utopia Winery in Oregon. I have with me Oregon residents, Bob and Nancy. Bob Kilo, Nancy Brown. What's happening in their backyard? Looking good. Got a very nice wine that they bought a while back when they visited the vineyard. And we have Scott and Cheryl Shepard, who have been all over the country. Where are y'all currently? You were in San Francisco. Where'd you move to?
We are in Cypress, Texas.
Cypress, Texas. All right, all the way from Texas. And then, of course, Dan the man from the Utopia Winery in Oregon. All right, break it down for us. What we got today?
I'm going to talk about the vintage a little bit, and then maybe you can talk about what you're smelling and tasting. And I can tell you what I think you should smell and taste on that wine right now. But so 2010 was the coolest growing season in the history of Willamette Valley up to that point. And they started keeping the official records in 1880. So between 1880 and 2010, that ended up being the coolest growing season, which means we had the least number of growing degree days, which is how cumulative heat is measured during the growing season. Okay. The average for northern Willamette Valley here in Yamhill County is about 2,550 growing degree days. And in 2000, we had 2,017. So a full 20% cooler than our average for 140 years. And so what happened was it caught a lot of the growers off guard. We grow for quality, we thin aggressively every year, but we've never had a year that cool. And so that year I had 11 Pinot Noir clones planted. And I had just planted my Chardonnay that year, but it obviously wasn't producing yet. But those 11 clones, I ferment them separately. So I keep them separate in the harvest bins, and then in the tanks, and then in barrels. And then usually I taste at the end, and then I blend at the very end to give myself the most granular level of control. The Paradise is a blend of my 3 best lots. So it was the ripest fruit basically from that vintage. That's been, I mean, I'm boiling it down, but that's basically what it means, right? When we say reserve, okay? So it's Badensville, and it's Pomard, my favorite clone, and it's Dijon 777 from my original 02 planting here. So in 2010, that was in its 8th year, or we say 8th leaf in the vineyard. And I had, like I said, I had 11 different Pinot Noir lots that year. And out of those 11, 8 of them I did not chaptalize. But 3 of them I did. And that's the only time I've ever had to do that in Oregon. Chaptalization is adding sugar to the wine. Okay. But the 3 lots that comprise the Paradise didn't need it. So my cutoff is 22 degrees Brix. If it's 22 or higher, I don't chaptalize. If it's 21.9 or lower, I do. And so that means I had 3 lots out of the 11 that were 21.9 or lower. It just so happens that it turns out that it ended up being one of my favorite vintages because I really like the silkiness when you have less ripe fruit. You have less tannin, and you have less depth of fruit and layers of it, but you still get really pure fruit flavors, and you also get some earthiness and some spice that comes through from the barrels and from the variety. Especially over time, you get more of the secondary and more of the tertiary aromas and flavors of the vintage that way. So that's what 10 was all about. So let me.
When was 10 put up?
When was it bottled?
Yes.
It was bottled in January of 2012.
So about a year and a half or so from.
Yeah, and that Paradise that year, I made 180 cases is all that was produced of that wine. And that's about what it is each year. So to me, sorry, go ahead, Doug.
So when
the Dijon, yeah, you should taste it.
Well, when I taste it, I was going to say I do taste the earthiness.
Yeah, and that part of that's because of the age of the wine as well now. That's what happens over time. It gets more integrated and you get more complex flavors, especially like that earthiness. How does the color look on the wine? Is the rim, is it showing some browning on the edge of the glass? Or does it still look like a young wine? Where the wine comes in contact with the glass, that's where you look to see the color.
I think it looks a little bit brown.
Yeah, so that's a sign of aging. That'll tell you that, okay, this is not a current release. This is a wine that, you know, has some time in the bottle.
It's a good song. Yeah, but you mentioned that the Dijon 777 is one of the is in this wine, but that is the clone that is in the other one that Scott and Cheryl are going to have, right? That's the only.
That's correct.
One. Okay.
It's, I do it on its own as a single clonal bottling, which we're going to taste next, and then I also put it into the blend of Paradise. So I'll give you a little history of how the Paradise evolved because that raises that question in my mind. So from 2005, which was my first production here, I made a Pinot Noir that was comprised of 6 different Dijon and Pomard clones from my original 02 planting. Okay, so in 2002, I planted 6 different blocks of one clone per block. And in 2005, I was able to make my first estate Pinot. It was a blend of all 6, and it was 97 cases total production. That was my very first wine here at Utopia, estate wine. And then from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, I only made that estate Pinot, and it went from 6 clones to 11 clones with my second planting in 05, starting in 08. And then in 09, I made the Paradise for the first time. And it was my first reserve bottling from this vineyard. And for it to be a reserve for me, it has to be a grade to a grade and a half better than the other lots. Okay. And I ferment everything separately. I make all the wines individually, all the different clones. And then I score the barrels, and then I blend at the end. So that's how I do it. So the first year that I made the Paradise, it was a blend of just Badensville and Pomard, and it was 100% destemmed fruit. I had not done any full cluster yet here. It was all destemmed fruit. And then the first time I made it that year, it was number 14 on Oregon's 50 Best Wines list, the very first time I made it. And then in 2010, I added the Dijon 777. So Paradise was first produced in 09, and in 2010, I did Dijon 777. And if you recall from our conversation about Dijon 777, it happens to work particularly well with whole cluster fermentations. That's one of its clonal characteristics, one of its primary characteristics. And so I chose it to do my first experiment with whole cluster here for that reason. And so I made the 777 in 2010, that same year, and it was 100% whole cluster. And then I liked it so much that in 2011, I added that as the third clone to the Paradise, and I started making the Paradise whole cluster too. So that's what we got to, and that tells you when we get to the 777 and 11 that was the second year that I made that wine.
The Clone 77 is definitely delicious. I know that.
11. I'll have to look into that.
Uh-oh. You got any questions, Bob or Nancy?
Yeah.
Hello?
And I had some questions about just really about the winery and a little bit of background, because I know you've gone through that a bunch on some of the other segments. But specifically, when we first met, it was we were out there and we were purchasing the 2008, and Portland Monthly had just done a big splash on you guys. And they'd given maybe they had given a high rating, or they were reporting on a high rating from another industry group. Can you tell us a little bit about the background on the 2008?
So yeah, great question. So now I know when you were here, you need to come back more often though. But in 2011 or 12, you were here. You're probably either the end of the 11 or beginning of the 12. Because if the Portland article had come out, that was a review of the 08 estate, and it came out in the October issue of 2011. Okay, so it was after that, probably early 2012. And what had happened was my 2008 estate wine was chosen as the #2 wine overall in Oregon, red or white or pink or whatever. And it got 95 points on Oregon's wine issue. Portland Monthly's wine issue, where they do the 50 best wines each year of Oregon. And that was kind of a big deal. And the #1 wine was Tony Soder's 2008 Mineral Springs, and it got 96 points. I was #2 on the list, and I got 95 points. And Isabelle Duterte was #3 with her 1789, and she got, I think, 94 points. So we were all pretty much right there. And the 2008 was was one of those what we call Goldilocks years in the vineyard. And so we had really good conditions for everything, and it just, everything worked out. It was a year where it was a little easier to make good wine that year because we had good growing conditions. Anyway, that's the background on the 08. It was #2 wine, and it put Utopia on the map quite a bit, and people still talk about that. But I've been on the list 3 more times in three more tries when the theme has fit my products. And so I was on. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you still have a 2.8, Bob?
I do.
Nice.
Yeah, I have some of that. I have some Magnums too. So Come on over. We'll
And
open one.
I had a Magnum, but it went to a party.
Yeah, good.
Which
I mean,
is,
it's
you
for
know,
drinking. It's
drinking.
ready now. These are really, I would say, you know, in 5 to 7 years, like we're drinking our 13s and 14s right now, and they're in really good place right now. These wines will typically, if you store them properly, they'll peak in about 5 to 7 years. For me, more towards 7, and then they'll stay that way for several more years, especially if they're stored properly. So 10 years is a good rule of thumb. You know, you're already past that mark with some of those. So I would say definitely have a party, drink them, have them for Thanksgiving if they're older than 2010. Not that they won't last longer, especially if properly stored, but I mean, you risk losing the fruit at some point. It's going to deteriorate a bit.
You got to hit it at the prime time. Prime time, Bob.
So the other question I had for you was about distribution. I don't find a lot of Utopia wine in local restaurants. Now I may just be missing the right restaurant. So can you talk a little bit about what your strategy is for distributing your wine?
So I'm direct to consumer primarily, like 99%. Okay. So I've always wanted to be direct. That way I can offer better pricing on my wines, which I think are price performance leaders. If I offer it direct to the consumer, then I can offer those discounts to them. If I go through a tier 3 type of scenario or situation, then I have to start by giving the distributor a minimum of 50% off of the retail price. And since I only make about 3,000 cases at the most in a good year, then it doesn't make sense. You need to produce about 10,000 cases to go into distribution at a minimum.
Okay.
So you can go to my website or you can come here. And I am in some restaurants. I've been on and off the Jory list, you know, every other year for the last 15 years, but they rotate stuff, which is the main one that I really care about. And then, you know, a few other places, I mean, like Red Hills Market and the Bistro, but they're typically only, if they have it, they just have like one of my wines, they wouldn't have the whole product line, obviously.
Yeah. Excellent.
All
right. So drink up, Bob and Nancy. Let's see what we've lost our friends over here, Scott and Cheryl. Let's get them back in here. All right. What's going on?
It's a nice, warm, sunny day here in Texas. So perfect day to drink wine.
For sure.
Where in Texas are you?
The northwest part of Houston is called Cypress. So
Cypress, okay.
Yeah.
And so we used to live in the Bay Area. So we came out here, and if you know, I'm sure you know about wines. They like their sweet wine out here in Texas. We haven't found a good thing that we like that's local at all.
Yeah, making it sweet masks the poor quality.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Well, the weird thing is that, you know, we grew up in the New Orleans area. So through high school and college, we drank bourbon, you know, Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
So in 1990, we moved to California and we knew nothing about wine. And we'd go to Napa and we'd go to Sonoma and we'd just go and we'd say, hey, we don't know anything. And they were happy to tell us.
Sure.
So we sort of grew up drinking California Reds. We started with Merlot, a lot of Zinfandel.
Sure.
And then we have a Pinot Noir when we wanted something lighter than the other two. But I mean, cabs and, you know, those kind of things, we will drink those. But I would say Pinot Noirs and Zins are what we drink with a hamburger. I mean, just, you know, every day.
Yeah.
You know, that's our regular wine.
Yeah, pizza, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I love red wine and pizza personally. I eat it all the time. But I mean, here the classic, you know, thing that we pair our Pinot Noir with is our salmon.
Salmon.
You know, and the other thing that's really, really good with Pinot Noir is anything that grows in the ground. So potatoes or mushrooms or asparagus. I mean, anything, cauliflower, whatever. That all works with Pinot, and Pinot is one of the very few red wines where that's true.
Okay.
So really good for sides, you know, not just like the classic cab and steak, where it's so tannic, you need something to cut through. You need the fat to cut through the tannins.
Right.
Plus, those are a lot higher alcohol typically. So you were on a very kind of ordinary, I would say, trajectory of a wine drinker. You started with those heavier reds, and then you went eventually and discovered, oh, wait, there's something here, you know, that I enjoy, and it's a little more versatile, which is normal. But I mean, you have to drink wine for a long time to start drinking Pinot Noir. Typically, not always, but typically people come around to it at the end after they've done the big reds and the whites and everything. They usually start with sweet white wine, then they go to dry white wine, then they go to the full-bodied reds, and then eventually they come around to Pinot Noir. That's
well,
typically.
we were drinking Merlot when the movie Sideways came out, and they
Yeah.
oh, we like it. You know, it's like,
Yep. Yep. I took a bottle of my Pinot Noir into the theater, and I sat up at the top and I opened and drank it during the movie. I brought my glass and my bottle and my corkscrew. Yeah. But that did a lot for Pinot Noir Sideways. It really made people more aware of it, quite a bit more aware of it.
What a funny movie.
Bad for Merlot, but good for Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we're doing the 11-777, is that right?
That is
okay.
correct.
I've got my 11-777 right there. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can even read that, but that's the 11.
It looks a lot like the label we have.
That's evidence. That's
Yeah.
the 11, the yellow
There you go.
label.
Nice.
Yep. Okay.
Collector's item.
There it is, right out of my cellar. It's a little cold because I had it at 55 degrees.
I was going to say, you know, we store wine at 55 degrees, but drink it at 65 degrees. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll warm up about about 4 degrees every 15 minutes at room temperature.
Okay.
So if you take it out at 55, you know, in 20 minutes, it'll be at 65.
Yeah.
And 68 degrees is considered the ideal temperature for Pinot Noir, serving temperature.
Okay.
I like mine a little cooler, especially when I first start drinking it, and then I like to let it breathe and open up. If it gets too warm, then I don't like it. It loses some of its viscosity.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I know what you're talking about with the California wines having a higher alcohol content, because to me, this has a pretty flat finish, whereas those California, particularly the Zin, you know, kind of has a little kick to it. This is smoother, I would say.
Yeah, smooth is better than flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just swirling mine now. I like to look at them, especially when I know it's an older wine. The color, you know, and the clarity, you know, not just the hue, but the clarity itself, and then what you see on the rim will tell you a lot. And then when you swirl the glass, you can hold it up and see if there are any legs.
Right.
I don't see a lot on this, which I see. Yeah, now I see some, but this is a lower alcohol.
Yeah, I have two big ones. Yeah, I have a little bit.
Yeah, they're there. In a cooler year, the thing I didn't mention before is that you're going to have less ripe fruit, which is going to give you lower alcohol. So I didn't look at the label on this, but here, let me take a quick look and see. I would say it's probably 13.
It
but
is.
let me see.
I think 14, 13 on the front.
Yeah, it's 13.
Yeah,
which is, you know, really good. I really like that. Something I like about the wine, you get a silkier texture with the, you know, that's one of the things that comes instead of the big fruit and tannin that you get in a hot year, you get the silkiness and the complexity. But this is not showing that much age on the rim. I mean, it still looks, at least from my cellar, it still looks like it's got several more years to go. Now, I didn't see the 10 that you had of the Paradise, but you said it was showing some brick red on the rim. So that's a sign, you know, that it's, you know, it's getting more integrated. So yeah, we can tell a lot just by looking at it. I really like the nose on it as it's opening up. I'm swirling it. And when I raise the glass up toward my face, I can already smell the aromas of the wine before I get my nose all the way in there. So I'd say it's fairly intense. As far as the aroma, I get like a cool, spicy kind of characteristic, along with maybe some rose petal and a little berry cola and cherry.
Wow. Didn't get all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't get the cherry, but I think I get the berry.
Yeah, the cherry's more secondary. It'll probably show up a lot more on the palate.
So Dan, is it typical that the older Pinot Noir is, the darker in color it will be? Because we've had some that's been quite a bit lighter in color than this.
Yeah, so actually, white wines get darker as they age, but red wines get lighter.
They get lighter. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to pay more attention to that.
Yeah, it'll start to show on the rim, and that's where you'll see that brick red color with a wine like this, or even one of your big cabs.
Okay.
Yeah. So always check the rim. You know, if you're trying to evaluate a wine, like I like to taste blind, because then that makes me think about the wine. It's more of a mental process than it is, a sensory process. And if you have a grid in your mind of the things, that you want to evaluate, like the smell, the taste, the texture, the body, if you will, the finish, the mid palate, the attack, all of those things, we follow this template. And so it gives you a 3D picture of the wine as you go through it.
Fun. I'm not quite there yet, but I can understand that.
But she's willing to learn.
Willing to learn, yes.
Yeah, well, tasting blind is a good, like if you have wines in your cellar, like you do, obviously, then maybe, do a theme, say, okay, I have an 11 Utopia, to have another 11 Willamette Valley Pinot that I can put next to it and taste them blind.
Yes.
Right. Then then it might surprise yourself, right? And you have to think about it more, oh, I wonder which one this is or that based on what you know and what you bring, to the tasting. Sure. And then it's the golden rule is if you like it, it's great. So it's just starting out. It's not a test. It's just, which one do I like more?
Yep, correct.
And if you're not tasting blind, it's hard to not have bias.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Very good.
I
All
drink
right.
a lot of other people's wine.
Oh yeah. Hey, all right, Scott and Cheryl, y'all got any other questions?
No, we're good. Thanks.
All right. What about you, Bob and Nancy? You got anything else you want to throw in with your cat? Or are you good?
Well, I was just going to ask him about wood versus stainless and picking barrels and how long they last. So let's just focus maybe just on the wood. When you pick a wood, there's certain toasting grades, right? And how do you do that? And then how long does wood last for you before you rotate it out?
Yeah. So, this is a huge, really good question. It's a huge topic, obviously, in winemaking, depending on the variety. Sorry?
It could take a long time to talk about.
Oh, well, we could, but I'll summarize for you, okay? And tell you what I do, okay? But yeah, this is something that as a winemaker, you're always learning. It's not like you figured out all the barrels in the world. That takes, I've been making wine for 25 years and I'm always trying new wood, I'm experimenting a little bit, but essentially with a really high quality wine like this, that's a more delicate wine, a medium bodied wine, Pinot Noir, you're going to use nothing but French oak. Okay, so we say it's French or forget it in the winery. That's not really what we say, but that's what I can say on here. Okay, so it makes the point, right? And so there are 14 different forests in France where the barrels come from, the wood for the barrels, and they're mostly 150 to 180-year-old trees, and they the quota for them is set by the French government each year, how many trees they can cut. And for the barrel, you're only using that center piece of the wood. And they need the older trees because they need the long runs that they have. And so they usually harvest enough to make about 350,000 new French oak barrels each year. And there are many different coopers in all of these different regions in France. And, you know, they have Burgundy barrels and they have Bordeaux barrels. Those are the two main kinds of what's called a hogshead, which are the ones that you see all the time that hold 60 gallons or 228 liters or 25 cases of wine. Okay. And to your point, in addition to the different forests, there are also different coopers that use different methods to toast the barrels and do different toastings. But in general, you can go anywhere from a light toast to a medium toast to medium plus to a heavy toast, and also with toasted heads if you want. And those are pretty much the options. And then you're picking the forest depending on the type of wine making, the variety. You know, Pinot Noir would have, you know, you'd have softer wood that would be, you know, that wouldn't be as tannic or as tight grain as like a Bordeaux barrel. But that's kind of wood. And then the coopers, they call on us in the spring, and we taste, like I use a mix of coopers and a mix of toast and a mix of forest to try to get more complexity in the finished product. And so they come and after I've used them for a year, if they're new or if not longer, they come every year and we talk about the impact of the barrels on the wines each year, and we adjust according to that. And then I add maybe 1 or 2 new coopers each year and try their barrels to see if you know, if I think it's going to be another component, and also to just so I can learn more.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's great information.
That's how we do it.
Good stuff.
Dan, how many years do you use the barrel?
Yeah, so
Like
wood is porous, and as long as you can sanitize it and it's not leaking to the point where you can't repair it easily, then you can continue to use them. And I don't use a lot of chemicals in my winery. I use steam and hot water and cold water primarily. Steam at 225 degrees of steam will sterilize the barrels. It penetrates 1/8 inch into the barrel and pulls everything out. So it's really good for your barrels too. It doesn't it's easy on the barrels, and so or gentle on the barrels. So the barrels, it extends their life somewhat. So I would say I could use as many as 10 years for some barrels.
Okay. They're not cheap.
Sorry?
They're not cheap.
No, they're definitely not cheap. And that's why, you know, people ask me, well, why is Pinot Noir so expensive? Well, that's one reason, because we have to use the most expensive barrels in the world making these wines. And I use even on my estate, I use about 40% new French, and the rest is, you know, used French oak. Could be neutral, could be 1 spilled, twice spilled, 3 times spilled. After 3 fills, the barrels are considered neutral.
Okay.
And but we use them to add grip on the palate because the wood is porous, like I said. A neutral barrel will add grip on the palate, and usually you're going to have a percentage of new and a percentage of used to get the total percentage of new that you want in the finished wine, like 38 to 42% for the estate Pinot. I want to be in that range.
Nice.
All right, good stuff. Well, I'm glad everybody liked their wine today.
Yeah, this has really got a lot of life left to it. I'm really, really excited about it. Owen Bargreen, who is the Washington wine blogger, you guys might follow him on Instagram. He reviewed my 11 in a 2011 roundup that he did of like a retrospective, and it covered a lot of really top brands in Oregon. I was very, you know, happy to be included in it because I didn't know him, and he was really stingy with his scores. I mean, he scored a lot of really good wines like 88, 89, 90. I got a 91 on this wine, so I was really proud that he said that. And he said that it still has another 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
And now that I'm tasting it, you know, that was the first thing I noticed about it was, well, this wine still got some life to it. So I don't know, 5 to 7 years, because it tastes really good right now.
I might have to order me one and wait for a couple years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I might, I'm sure I have a few of these, so we'll just spread them out over the, every 6 months we'll drink one and see how it ultimately ages.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Good
Thanks,
stuff.
guys.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Dan. We'll see you for the next one.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, Doug.
Cheers.
How was it? No, you can't go yet.
Oh, okay.
We gotta shoot the breeze for a minute. It's part of the program. Let's go now. All right. So what'd you think,
This is very
Bob?
cool. Well, Dan's very forthcoming with good information. And I have a long list of questions for him. So someday we'll either have to do it in another session or I'm going to go after the winery, I guess.
You're gonna go to the winery. Don't kid yourself. I'd be out there every week probably. Yeah. That's we've got and you may, some of the questions you ask, you may end up hearing them in some of the other tastings that we're gonna do, I think 4 or 5 when it's all said and done, and break it out. So people have asked questions, and so hopefully some of those, and then the rest maybe we could do something else, or you could go out there. So how do you like that wine? That's a 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it has a lot of
So
tannins.
this estate
too.
is awesome.
I would think so. That Paradise is a reserve, and it's
I'm
10.
drinking it at a much colder temperature than he would recommend.
Because you're outside.
I mean, it's probably 50 degrees right now.
Oh yeah, that's colder than you're supposed to store it, man. That's all right though. It's open, so maybe it's a little warm.
We store our wine at 65 degrees
It's outside.
because
That's
we don't wait a lot. In other words, we're not keeping it for 10, 20 years, and that way when
Right.
I pull it out, it's pretty much ready to go. I don't know.
Ready to go.
I
Okay.
don't have to
Yeah.
wait, an hour or so. So
Mm-hmm.
it's typically.
Yeah.
But he was
But-
very knowledgeable.
but
He
this,
told me
you know,
things I didn't know.
This
That's
I would
good.
never mistake this for a California wine. This is definitely distinct from California.
Yes.
Agree. Willamette Valley Pinots are just very different. I really have a hard time finding any that I don't like. So Bob, we heard Scott and Cheryl's wine story. What is your and Nancy's wine stories? How long y'all been drinking, or have you been drinking for a long time? What got you into it?
Well, I'll tell you a thing. Yeah, I'll tell you a thing I keyed on. I found totally true. We started out with French Bordeaux, heavy red Saint Emilions, Cabernet Sauvignons. So, and he's absolutely correct. We don't even drink those anymore. I have a vertical of some old Rothschild in there that I should probably start drinking, but we have gravitated to the more medium body reds, including Italians. So we started out with the French, the heavies, and we moderated to the medium body wines. And because of a local fantastic Italian restaurant that we've been going to a lot, learning a lot more about, other countries' wines, not just France where we
Old
started,
world wine.
not just
Sure.
Willamette Valley where we live, but we're learning a lot about Italian wines now. So we're
Okay.
branching out into Barbarescos, which is very similar to
Yeah.
Pinot Noir. But we've been drinking wine since probably, the mid 70s or so.
Oh wow, is that the same Italian restaurant we went to when I was in town?
Whites and reds. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's another one. That's a good one. That one in Lake
Mhm.
Oswego. This one's really just about 2 miles away from that one. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
absolutely fantastic. The best Italian restaurant I've ever been to in my life.
So do you
I've been
take
to
your own
all
wine,
over
or
San Francisco.
do you buy wine from them?
We
Buy it
actually,
from them?
he does have
Okay.
a wine store right outside his building. He runs a little wine store, and if you've just eaten dinner and you bring your receipt across, you get 10% off the wine. So yes, we bought wine.
Oh, nice. Very good. All right.
But we like whites and reds, so I'm glad Dan makes both.